So, Lord Woolley, I mean, we're going to have to start by you telling me a little bit about Naomi Campbell at 10 Downing Street. I mean, how do I get that picture?
It's a great picture, right? And she was super cool. I mean, it's Naomi Campbell, a supermodel, a powerful, beautiful black woman who has had to fight her corner, to stand her ground, to be recognized, to fight a system, actually, the beauty system that looks down on women and uses them, not Naomi Campbell. And when I was speaking to one of her friends, I said, I want to take Naomi Campbell to Downing Street so she can meet with the Prime Minister. And I said to the Prime Minister, Theresa May, look, I think powerful women should talk to each other, should support each other. And she agreed. And so the funny thing is that when Naomi walks down the street, everybody looks, all their heads turn. And I said to the Prime Minister, I want to introduce you to my super sister. And she smiled. And they chatted about empowering young women like yourselves. So it was a great conversation of two powerful women. And like my good friend here, Faheem, that this is what we do. Right? For me, it's a great story that when this young man, I saw his talent, we chose him and we empowered him to say, it's not just about you, but it's about what you do and what you do for others. And just look what he's doing. What was interesting, I was there's a green room outside, and I was speaking to some of your ambassadors, Sarah and Francis. And Francis said that one of the speakers that you had just blew him away. She was so dynamic. She was a woman that worked challenging the police, working with the police. And he said it was unforgettable. And it inspired me to do great things. So I said, who is this woman? And he said, Katrina French. Katrina French was on the same program. We chose Katrina French to be a leader. So you see how the journey goes. I was lucky. I was inspired, mentored by Reverend Jesse Jackson. You know Reverend Jesse Jackson? He was on the balcony with Dr. Martin Luther King when he was shot. He ran for the US presidency twice before Barack Obama, 1984, 1988. He was the best candidate by far, but America wasn't ready for a black president. He mentored me. I mentored this man. He mentors you. The journey continues. And what I said to Faheem, I said, look, when we saw his talent, we saw his energy, I turned around to him and others and I said, look, Faheem, hear me now and hear me good. I'm not asking for your success. Remember? I'm not asking. And he was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I said, I'm demanding it. Demanding it. You good with that? Are we good with that? And he nodded, and look what he's doing now. And I think that when you pass the baton on, give young people like yourselves the tools. Tell me this, here's a question for you. How many of you have heard of Jason Ardy? Put up your hands. Jason Ardy.
We had him as a speaker on the program last year.
There you go. There you go. He's a mentee of mine. When Jason Ardy was 11, he couldn't speak. Hear that? Could not speak. But he fought with it. Working class kid from a council estate in South London. Next week, he becomes the youngest black professor, the youngest, at Cambridge University. There's only 4 black professors. I think is the youngest, and I think is the only male black professor at my university, and he's my guy.
And if I didn't mention that in my introduction, Lord Woolley is the first principal, first male black principal, any Oxbridge college, that's including Oxford and Cambridge. Round of applause for that. For those of you aspiring to Oxbridge, I mean, what a contact for you. So make sure you come up and ask a question at break time.
So when you come to Cambridge, and many of you here will, you come to Homerton College. Sorry, Francis. Sorry, Sarah. Homerton College, Simon says. But you know, I wasn't supposed to be there. Because young men and women from council estates, mine was in Leicester, we're not taught to aspire to go to Oxford or Cambridge. We're not taught to work in Downing Street. We're not taught to be with supermodels. But we can do it anyway. And here's the thing about it. That I know, and you know, because I was speaking to another ambassador about the obstacles that you face. Because you're Muslim. Because you're black. Because you're a black woman. I know the obstacles. I know the challenges. I remember I had another mentor, Reverend Al Sharpton. He did the eulogy for George Floyd. Remember the eulogy for George Floyd? Get off my knee, get off my knee. Remember that? And we brought him over 20 years ago. Back then he was a barrel-chested activist, fast-talking, sharp-suited. We took him to Peckham in South London at a pupil referral unit. And there was about 20 black kids with their hoodies looking a bit mean. And Sharpton looked at them and they were looking at him, what are you going to do? What are you going to say to us that can impress us? Mr. Al Sharpton. And he turned around to these young men and he said, let me tell you this. I know you've had it tough. I know you've been excluded. I know people have given up hope on you. But I'll tell you about one thing. If I knock you down, that's on me. Knocking you down. If I come back 2 weeks later and you're still on the ground, that's on you. And you saw these guys look at each other deep. I can feel that. What he was trying to do is turn that adversity into power, into saying, I won't be defeated. I'm going to prove you wrong. You can't define me. I can do it myself. And so for myself, fast forward from a council house in Leicester to be in this room in Westminster. This guy's called the Garter. He does all the procedures for the House of Lords. And he said, Lord Woolley, do you know where you want to be a Lord of? Maybe of Leicester or somewhere. And I turned around to Faheem and I said, I'd like to be Lord Woolley of everywhere. And he went, no. Can you be more specific? And I thought about my council estate in Leicester. It's called St. Matthew's. St. Matthew's, so I thought maybe Lord Woolley of St. Matthew's. And I thought, no, I've lived in London for most of my adult life. So maybe I'm going to be from my neighborhood in London. Do you know where that neighborhood is? Anybody know? Woodford. Lord Woolley of Woodford. I thought to myself, if it's good enough for Winston Churchill, when Winston Churchill was Prime Minister, he was the MP for Woodford. Now, I'm the Lord of Woodford. I'm not saying every journey can be the same, right? What I am saying is, you create your own journey with no limits. Is it a walk in the park? Definitely not. In fact, when it's not a walk in the park and you keep getting knocked down, you get back up and you show them. When you get to a place like Cambridge University and you're in charge. Now, when we have the graduation, have a graduation in Senate House. Remember that, Francis? When you graduate, you come to this grand hall in Cambridge. And someone like me sits on a throne with a red gown on. And you have to come to me, a kid from the council estate, and you have to kneel, and we have to do a funny handshake. And I bestow you your degree in Latin. I had to learn Latin, by the way. I didn't learn it at my secondary modern school in Leicester. But we learn quick, right? We learn quick.
Thank you, Lord Woolley. I loved your point about demanding that we all step up. And one of the things we ask our young people on this program to do is at the end of the program, they have to launch social action projects in the local community. And they can champion any social cause that they feel really passionate about. And I got that lesson from you. It's a privilege to be able to pay it forward. And it's a responsibility. We had 1,600 applications for this program, for 400 places. And so, just like Lord Woolley saw talent in me, we saw talent in each and every one of you. But that journey does not end, cannot end when this program ends. Your journey is just beginning. And as a central part of that journey, your contribution to your community, to champion the causes that you're passionate about, has to feature centrally in the work that you do. That is both a privilege and a responsibility.
100%. Here's the other thing too. How many of you in the room? Over 100. Over 100. You should all know each other. You should all support each other. Share your stories. You see, out there in the public schools, in the posh areas, you know what they have? Networks. Where they support each other. They open doors for each other. They give them the intel about what's going on. On your own, Francis, I'm sure that you're good. Imagine how it is when you're all together. How many languages in this room? Think about that. How many connected countries? How many cultures? How much knowledge is in this room? Now, imagine if it's shared. Imagine if I get a golden thread, and I sew it. Weave the golden thread. You know what happens? The whole becomes greater than the individual parts. The whole. This is how these networks, have any of you heard of the Bullington Boys? It's a group of posh Tories. And they looked after each other. Boris Johnson, David Cameron, George Osborne. Wherever they went, they looked after each other. You need to look after each other because you have a shared interest. Many of you are, if not most of you, are working class or not born with a silver spoon, right? You support each other, help each other up. The world's your oyster.
And it's not just the people in this room. This is why we mix you with the West London program as well, but also our alumni community. This is why we have ambassadors. We've had hundreds of kids go through this program over the last couple of years. That is your network. Those are your people who have a shared journey, a shared understanding, but also are ambitious for their future and are passionate about change. This is the family that you are now part of, the Future Leaders family.
The Future Leaders family. Within the Future Leaders family, how many of you are going to be politicians? Raise your hand, please. There's a few there. Do I see a mayor of London in this room? Come on, put your hand up again. Don't be shy. Stand up, please. Stand up. Stand up. Give her a round of applause. You get my vote. But unless you stand up and be counted, we can't vote for you. Do I see a business entrepreneur in the room? Please stand up. Entrepreneur. There you go. 1, 2, 3. I mean, I can't believe there's not more entrepreneurs. That's where the money is. Do I see any more entrepreneurs? Stand up, stand up, stand up, the entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs. What do you think you might want to do as a, thank you. What do you think you might want to do as a business? Do you have any idea yet? So art. You know, Damien Hirst sold one of his paintings for 14 million. Damien Hirst didn't get the money, but the business entrepreneur did. You see? What about yourself? Technology. Oh my gosh. We're all dealing with chat. What is it? Chat AI. There you go. Thank you. My son would know 100%. What about yourself, young man?
I want to make the next Amazon.
Oh, there you go. He's got big ideas, this guy. And why not? And why not? You know what I've always thought? What about the black Amazon? True. Black entrepreneurs selling their wares in black Amazon. What about yourself? Artist too. Good. Good. What about, thank you, sit down. Do I see any doctors in the house? Yes, sir.
Be shy, be brave.
Brave, that's it. That's it. Doctors in the house. You've not got a bad back. Can you help? No, but you have to think big. What's that, Lord? Thank you, doctors. Thank you, doctors in the house. What about lawyers? Oh my gosh, the lawyers in the room. So, politician, lawyer. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Lord, lawyers. All right. Here's a question for you. You want to be a defense lawyer or a prosecution lawyer? Defense. What about yourself? Prosecution. Okay. Defense. Why? Why defense lawyer?
Provide justice.
Yeah, oh, don't you just love that? Why do you want to be a prosecution lawyer? See, no, but that's honest. That's honest. Thank you, lawyers. Let me just say this. Whether you're a prosecution lawyer or defense lawyer, entrepreneur, politician, you know what the Future Leaders Program seeks to do? To give you values. To give you integrity. So, yes, you can make big money. Yes, you can make big money in business. But you need to do it the right way. Not to cheat people, not to steal from people, but to be creative. I think when you go through leadership programs with the right values guide you to make the right decision, rather than the one that looks pretty, that pays the highest salary. You might say, you know what, thanks but no thanks, because I don't agree with your ethics, your morals. Francis, it's success the right way. The right way. Here's the thing about doing it the right way, like this young man. I say he's a young man because he's younger than me. Take it all day long. You know, when you do things the right way, it's not just about you. I feel privileged to watch this man develop and just become a decent guy. And I see him, now he's chatting with the Mayor of London and Theresa May, and he's a big shot now, right? But he's not doing it for him. He's doing it for you. You see the difference? How you can be successful, you can elevate yourself by doing for others. And so now, I'm in the House of Lords. I walk around the House of Lords. You've been there, right? It's a gold chamber. The king comes there and sits once or twice a year. I walk around and they say, "Is everything okay, my lord?" And I do this. Who are they talking about? Because I'm not used to it. Because I didn't want to be called a lord. I didn't aspire to that. I aspired to do good things. And then good things happened to me. I had to get on one knee too, Sarah. But it was to be knighted by Her Majesty the Queen. And she took the Queen out. She was 93, I think. Steady go. Don't take my ear off. I got on one knee and she knighted me. And for a short while I was Sir Simon, like Sir Elton John or Sir Mick Jagger, Sir Simon. And I thought, I can live with that. I mean, who wouldn't, right? It's a great honor. But I've lost the title Sir. When you become a lord, you drop the Sir because you get upgraded. I don't know what's next. But I hope, Faheem, I did it for the right reason.
Lord Woolley, what I love about what you just said, I don't know what's next. You are a lord, which is the highest rank in British society, but Lord Woolley is still thinking about what's next. What a lesson there is in that. Always be thinking what's next for you. Never think that there's a limit. There is no ceiling. The only ceiling is in your mind, and you're the only person that can break through it. Whenever you think, I've done it, I've got 3 A's at A level, I've got my place at Oxbridge, that's just the beginning. What's next for you? And what's after that? And what's after that? That's the journey we want you to go on.
It is. It doesn't mean to say that you're always waiting to feel success or to be happy. Because that's an error too. When I was maybe your age, I would say to myself, when I got myself a Ford Capri, that was a flash car back in the day, I'd be happy. And then you got the car and then you think, now, maybe I'm not. Maybe I've got to get something else. No. You can be happy tonight, here, with your friends, with your colleagues, in that learning process, planning your future. I think it's very, very important in everything that you do to be present. Sometimes we put our happiness on hold. We say, I only want to get my house. I want to get the flash car. No, be happy today. Find something that gives you joy. It might be that you gave your mum a hug. You gave your brother or sister a hug. That's being present. That's being joyous now, today. Yes, you can plan for tomorrow. Read your books, do your studying. But living in the moment is something we forget. And there's all around us beauty, all around us is joy. We just have to open our eyes and embrace it. And I think when we are present in everything we do, I think we do things much more for the right reason. Because we're present. So for example, sometimes you can be in a room and you're thinking, who's the most important person in the room? I only want to speak to them. And ignore the person next to you. Well, they may not be the most important person in the room today, but they could be tomorrow. And if you're present with them, they will not forget that you looked them in the eye, that you listened to them by being present.
What I love what Lord Woolley just said, you have everything you need to be successful. You may have less than others, you may have more than some others, but you have, in this moment, you have everything you need to achieve your dreams, however much or little that is.
You know, achieving, some people get it wrong. They think that actually getting the big house and the car is achieving. You know what's achieving? The doing. Think about Reverend Jesse Jackson. He lost 2 presidential campaigns. But in losing, he won. He won. Because he'd begun to change America of what black success, black talent looks like. If it wasn't for King and Jesse Jackson, there couldn't have been Barack Obama. Sometimes when you lose, you win. Sometimes when you fail an exam, you think, I failed. Think, no. Okay, I didn't do my best at this exam. I'm going to learn from that. So it's being present and allowing you to see that even when you get things wrong, it's a learning process. Allows you to think most things that you do can be valuable.
Thank you, Woolley. I just want to go back to something you said earlier on, adversity to power. Adversity to power. So if we were to take a step back and just go to the start of your journey, you mentioned growing up in a council estate. No doubt a life that is filled with adversity like many of our young people will be facing. So what advice could you give to our young people about what they should do in the face of adversity and how do they overcome that and not let that hold them back?
It's a good question, and it might need multiple layers to it. But overarching those layers, I would say, try and be smart. Know when to let things go. Somebody calls you a black bee. You might say to yourself, you can't touch me. Can't hurt me. You know, what's that? David Guetta, titanium, right? Right? Other times you may want to point the finger and say, behave yourself. Behave yourself. Have the judgment. And I think my judgment when I'm in those situations, you know what I say to myself? I'm in control. So if I want to say something back to you, it's because I want to say something back to you, not because you've provoked me. Because if I act upon your provocation, you've won already. Right there. Let me give you another example of that. How many times have you been in the car with your dad, your mother, your friend, and the car next to you is at road rage, screaming? You're thinking, what? And your instinct is to scream back. Why would you do that? I always say to myself, when I see people with road rage, you be careful, mister. You be careful, missus. At some point, you're going to meet yourself. And it's not going to be pretty. My thinking is, I don't know you. You can't touch me with your poison. So I'm just going to let it slide. You can rant and rave in your car as much as you want. I'm not taking the bait. But sometimes, when you have to stand up to protect your family, protect your friends, you need to know the difference. And Sometimes I've got it wrong. I've been too emotional. I used to go to friends' houses, and I would hear somebody say something stupid, something racist, something awful. I remember I was in a posh dinner in the city, and I think as minorities, you try and make people feel comfortable. And so I was in a room with white people, making these people feel comfortable. They got so comfortable, they started to splurge their racism. This woman turned around to me, she said, "Oh, Mr. Woolley, what is it with these black kids? What is it with these black kids and their attitude and behavior in school? What is it with them? You forget who you're talking to. Have I made you so comfortable that you can talk like that to my face?" And so I'm thinking now, how do I deal with this? And I'll turn around and I'll say, the funny thing is, back 50 years ago, a lot of men had the same attitude towards women in schools. That they were useless, that they couldn't learn. The woman started to cry. Give me a break. Sometimes that you have to let it go. And other times you're just raging. Another example, I would argue a slightly funnier example, was that I went on the train once. I think it was an overground train from Liverpool Street to Tottenham. And I get on the train, there's 2 seats there and 2 seats there. There's a couple sitting in front. So the train's pretty packed, and I get on to sit on the empty seats. And one person in front of me says in Spanish, "I hope this black guy doesn't sit facing us. Ojalá que no se siente al lado de nosotros." Did I just hear that? Yeah, of course I did. I speak Spanish. So what do I do? Of course I sat down. And now I'm seething. In my country, these 2 people from another country are telling me that I shouldn't sit there. All right, I'm trying to translate and think what do I do? I'm thinking, if I say to the woman, "I know what you said," I know what would happen. "Oh, no, I didn't. You got it wrong. You've got a chip on your shoulder. Why are you attacking me?" I'd become the villain in the situation. But if I say nothing, my heart's going to burn for the injustice from my defense lawyer. What do I do? What would you do? What would you do, Sarah? She's got it. You know what happened? But you can't speak in Spanish just to yourself. Otherwise they think you're crazy. I swear to you, somebody was looking out for me because my phone rang. And I picked up the phone and said, "Hola, Gary, ¿qué tal estás?" I swear to you. He was like, "What? What are you talking like that for?" But the other 2 in front went like this. Got found out. I swear to you, it was a picture. I said nothing to them, but I watched them squirm. I watched them shuffle. 2 stops later, they got off the train. They just couldn't bear the humiliation of being found out. So be smart and choose your battles.
I want to talk a little bit about Operation Black Vote. As I said at the beginning, ladies and gents, the purpose of Operation Black Vote is to give a platform to people from minority backgrounds. And not really, as you know, our work on Future Leaders program, half is about supporting these young people secure their next steps, whatever they may be. The other half is to empower them to be advocates for equality and diversity. So we do sessions on Black History Month, we do sessions on Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, LGBT rights, disability rights, women's rights, etc. And the hope is that they gain an education and feel a sense of civic responsibility to be active upstanders. We've done some work on how to be an upstander as well. So my question to you is, why was it important to you all those years ago to start Operation Black Vote? And what are the barriers that you think people from minority backgrounds continue to face, and how can we overcome them?
Sure. Well, when I was, I guess your age, I wanted the money too. And I got a job in town and I was earning decent money. I bought a flat. I bought a flat here in Woodford, in South Woodford. In fact, a little aside, hold on to that thought, but a little aside that I bought a flat when I was about 21. I got lucky and bought a flat. And one day my washing machine broke down and I was coming out the house with a dirty bag of washing, and I'm walking down the street. 2 police cars came by, and they drove by, screeched, and reversed back up, jumped out of the car, and then just headed towards me. And I said, "Wait, what? And they said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to the laundrette." They said, "Oh, there's been some burglars around here. What are you doing around here?" I said, "I live there. That's where I live." They said, "Have you got any ID?" I said, "You don't need ID to go to the laundrette. I can get you some ID." "Okay, go and get me some ID." So I went into my house, turned the key, went into the house, and the policeman was following me. I said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm coming with you." I said, "No, you're not. You're not invited into my house. You wait here." And as I went in, he rushed in, jumped on me, dragged me out, arrested me, locked me to the gate, and said, "We think you're going to run through the house and run off." And then knocked on my neighbours' houses, and said, "Does this man live here?" And they went, "Yeah, that's Simon." And now they was enjoying the humiliation. They knocked on 2 other people's houses and then uncuffed me, and said, "Right, you're free to go." I was seething. But I thought to myself, I'm not going to get mad. I'm going to get even. I'm going to get powerful. I'm going to be after you someday. Trust me on that. And so I think in my mind, I kept thinking to myself, having money is not half of it. You need to understand power, how it works, because it's not just about me. This happens to black kids all over the place. We need power where we're not asking for justice or equality. We're demanding it. So I said to some activists, I said, "Look, there's young black men going into police custody, fit and healthy, and coming out dead. And no one's held accountable. We need power. We need black power." So we started 30 years ago, Operation Black Vote. And back then, as you said before, there were 4 black, Asian, minority ethnic MPs. Bernie Grant, God rest his soul. Super Sister Diane Abbott, Keith Vaz, and Paul Botan. Now there are 65 black, Asian, minority ethnic MPs. But what we did is that first of all we said, look, we might only be 10%, 12% nationally, but in places like London, Leicester, Birmingham, Manchester, actually we're concentrated. And so if we register to vote and vote, you can start making demands. And it was brilliant, because before Operation Black Vote, politicians wouldn't care about black people. When we said we can decide who has the keys to Downing Street, they're all knocking on my door. "Simon, can we talk?" I remember before you were born, I get a call from Jack Straw, he was the Home Secretary, or the Shadow Home Secretary. And he called me up and he said, "Simon, can you organise a press conference? I want to make an announcement." And I'm saying to my colleagues in the office, because we're all volunteers and none of us are getting paid, I said, "I've got Jack Straw on the phone. The Shadow Home Secretary." "Yes, Mr. Straw, what can I do for you?" So we held a press conference, and at this press conference he said, "Mr. Woolley, if black and brown people vote for Labour, we will ensure that you get a public inquiry to the death of Stephen Lawrence. He made that promise to us and delivered. They didn't do that because they love black people. No. They knew we had power. They knew we had the power to either vote them in office or out of office. And this is what this man is trying to do for you. He's trying to give you the self-belief that you can do great things. But collectively, in a united way, do extraordinary things. Think about that.
You know, I often say to you, demand those spaces in those places. When we talked about Oxbridge or not feeling comfortable in a corporate environment, when we took you to Amazon, etc., I've said to you, demand those places in those spaces because you deserve them. I borrowed that from Lord Woolley.
So good. It's so good.
Because when I was on my leadership program, that's what Lord Woolley said to us. Demand those places in those spaces because you deserve it.
I probably stole it from somebody else. Doesn't matter, you pass it on, pass it on. You say it's your turn. It's your turn to flourish. And the thing about it is that when Francis goes on his success, and Sarah and many of you, that you will say, I was supported. This guy took me to places that I shouldn't be at. And I had this self-belief. And I'll tell Katrina French about what she did for you, because that's how we keep passing that positive vibe on to the next generation.
And Lord Woolley, you talked about the importance of network, and that's one of the greatest gifts you gave us through Pathways to Success. So many of the alumni have been on this stage and spoken to these young people, including Katrina, and so many more. And this is the power of network. So many of the speakers that we've been able to bring to put in front of you, I met through my network. And now this is your network.
Right. I mean, you think about it for a second. Think about what Martin Luther King could have done if he had WhatsApp. You know, they had to knock doors. They had to march on the streets. You've got it all on your phone to be connected, to give support. You've got to use that. Use it not just for TikTok likes with dances. I mean, I'm not against dancing. Trust me on that one. But you can use that power that you've got in your hand for greater than TikTok dance likes. Is my point.
Thank you, Lord Woolley. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've got about 10 minutes left, so it is over to you now. An opportunity to ask Lord Woolley any question that you would like. So
before you do, think about your questions, because I think they're going to give you a lot of books who ask questions, but I'm going to sign 2 books. No, 1 book here and 1 book for the other group. So the best question will get a signed copy tonight. And Faheem, you and I got to choose which was the best question.
it's all you, Lord Woolley, but I will support it, absolutely. So really think about the quality, to have a signed copy. And please start with your name and your school. I'll take that information down and we'll make sure that you get a book. Miss Kaur there has a mic, so please wait for the mic. So it's in the recording. And all right, first question.
Hi, my name is Amina. I go to Isaac Academy.
Sorry, Amina, could you turn the mic on? There's
Or have it closer to you. Yeah.
There we go, now it's on. So start again, please.
Hi, my name is Amina. I go to Isaac Newton Academy in Ilford. Recently, I've been accepted to the Oxford Summer School, but I still don't feel like that I deserve it. So how do you deal with imposter syndrome?
I love that. I love that question. You know, I've got to get you away from the imposter syndrome. You're going there because you're brilliant. Understand that? And when you go into those schools that have been around for about 1,000 years, you know what you have to say to yourself? It's my turn. The people on the walls are dead. It's about me now. I can show respect but I have to be present. Oh, and by the way, Simon says I have to be brilliant. Don't have because the imposter syndrome, you can't shine if you're afraid to be there. I'm not saying you have to be arrogant, but just say, I'm here for a purpose. And then you smile at the dead white men. And say, it's my time, old man.
Demand that place in that space.
Demand it.
And also, Amina, congratulations for being selected. Round of applause for Amina. Proud of you. Well done. Everything you learn, you'll have to share with all of us, all right? Well done, Amina. Next question, please. Yeah, so let's stand up, please, when we ask our questions. And name, school, and then question, please.
So my name is Zara. I go to Trinity, and I'd like to ask, earlier you spoke about when should you react when somebody says something provocative to you, and I sort of find it kind of hard to deal with that sometimes.
Right.
So I'd like to ask, how exactly do you choose? Because you said it's a question of either reacting and giving them the reaction that they want,
Sure.
or standing up to injustice.
Let me say, it's a great question. You make that call. And I think the thing is that if you feel that you'll kind of lose it or be out of control, then you've lost. If you are smart enough to think, you know what, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. And you're probably going to be an idiot for a long time. And you don't even deserve a response. And then there's other times where you just say to yourself, yeah, you know what, you're out of order. But it's difficult for me to fully explain how you have to learn that antenna for when to say, I'm going to point the finger or I'm going to let it slide because you know what, you're not worth it. Most of the time, these people are not worth it. Some of the time, you just want to point the finger, back off, behave. You may want to say to a friend, you're better than that. We're better than that. Sometimes you can kill people with kindness. Really? Really? Aren't we better than that? But you choose.
All right, thank you. I'd also like to ask something else really quickly. What did you study at university?
I left school with no A levels and no O levels. I did GCSEs back in the day. And I think I was smart. I don't think I was encouraged or inspired. Maybe I like football and girls too much. But I soon realized that I needed education. And so I think I was about 26. So I'd already earned money because, I wasn't stupid. I bought a flat, but I knew I needed education. So I said to my boss, it's at Rank Films in Wardour Street. I said to him, look, I can do this job. I was a salesman selling films on the cinema, adverts on the cinema. I said, I can do this job in my sleep. Let me do it for 2 days a week and let me go back to school to get an O level. And he said, what are you talking about? You're a top guy here earning big money. I said, I need education. I need it. So he said, you have to choose. So I got my keys out to the company car and threw it to him. I said, I'm out of here. And I went to Epping College. It's called an access to education, learning how to learn. And then I went to Middlesex University and I studied. You had to study a language. I did a language and history and politics. And then, because I did a language, it meant I could go to Latin America. I went to Costa Rica for a year, never learned a sentence of Spanish because everybody wanted to speak English. When I came back, they said, you can major in Spanish, but you have to go back to a Spanish-speaking country. So I went to? Colombia. That was crazy. There, nobody wanted to speak English. I had to learn Spanish and salsa, of course. But so Spanish, history, um, and politics. Politics in Latin America was on fire with itself. Civil wars everywhere. I saw people dying for their cause. When I came back to the UK, I thought to myself, I'm not going to get shot. I'm not going to get kidnapped. I know there's injustices. I've got to play my part. So that's what inspired me. Great question.
Thank you. I'd like to do history and politics as well.
There you go. Do you speak a foreign language?
Yes.
What do you speak?
Romanian.
There you go. How many others speak two languages here? Raise your hand. It's unbelievable, eh? It's unbelievable. 3 languages? 4 languages? Look at this. There. So much talent in the room. Are you kidding me?
Thanks, Tara. Yeah, young lady? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Marianne and I go to Luxford School. Earlier you spoke about the importance of being present for people, but who was present for you?
That's sharp. That's sharp. My mother. She put her arms around me. When I was a kid, younger than you, in Leicester, as kids we were all sharp and always trying to turn a shilling, earn some money, ducking and diving. And so me and my friends, 11, 12 years of age, you know what we used to do? We used to be ticket touts outside of football matches. So little kids. And we'd get the tickets from players like Gary Lineker. Gary Lineker was, when he was like similar age, he was getting tickets because he was playing for Leicester's school kids. So we would buy the complimentary tickets that they would get and resell them. And so they called me, I was like this size, they called me the big man. The big man, because I was buying tickets off 12-year-olds and then reselling them. And then we'd go out and buy some clothes, and then sometimes I go back and I give my mum some money. And she turned around to me, she said, she was present for me. She said, I don't worry about you. You're going to be fine. Thank you. Good question.
Thank you. Okay, hands up, nice and high so I can see, please, nice and high. Let's come to the front here, miss. Thank you. Okay, in the corner, sir. Stand up.
So you spoke about doing many things, and oh, sorry, I forgot to tell you my name. I'm Pedro from LSE, Leighton Sixth Form College. You spoke about doing many things, and you went through a lot during your childhood, and I wondered what kind of skills you pick up and from your earlier days that you integrate nowadays.
It's a great question. From a young man speaking 4 languages. I wish I could speak 4 languages. I'm on 3, well, 2.5. Although my school teacher would say, no, you speak good gibberish. When I was like 11, I'd come into school always late, always a little bit late. And I'd walk into the classroom and I'd say, sir, you never guess what happened on the bus. So I was getting on the bus and then the bus driver had to get off because of the tire was flat. And then Simon, sit down with your gibberish. But what's the question again?
It's all right. So what kind of skills did you pick up from your earlier days?
Oh, yeah. It wasn't remembering. You know, I think the greatest skill that I learned was judging people. I learned to have a good antenna about people when, you know, being a ticket tout or being a salesperson, you have to get a connection with the other person. And so reading people, listening to them, watching their body language, I think is a great skill. I would go as far as this. that I would say many of you have that skill, but you don't even acknowledge it. So think about this for a second. Often you can walk into the room, a woman can walk into the room, and you're the only woman in the room with young men. Or a black person can go into the room and they're the only person in a predominantly white space. This skill that we don't even talk about is that you walk into that room and you know you've got to make people feel comfortable about you. So it might be your demeanor. It might be how you speak. And you're knowingly having to make people feel comfortable in the room for you to be accepted. That's a wonderful skill, if you acknowledge it. I call it a superpower. And when you know that you're doing it and you're conscious of it, then you can say, now I've read the room. Now you feel comfortable about me and about my presence. Now can we do business? And, so it's a wonderful skill. Read the room, listen, understand someone's sensibility, understand someone's anxiousness. You can have people go into the room and they're talking over them, not listening, just worrying about themselves. Oh my gosh. Here's the thing, when you have that antenna to read a room, when I give a speech, 99 times I don't have a script. I think I know what I want to say, and it may meander, I might forget a few things. But I can't talk without looking at you. I can't talk without feeling the energy, because otherwise I'd be talking to myself. So, reading the room, feeling the presence of the room is a skill that I've learned. I wasn't born with it. I've learned it. And the sooner you learn it, the sooner you can be in spaces and function at your best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone, I know there's more questions. I do want to stop here just so you have a break before your next session starts at 7:30. If you didn't get a chance to ask your questions, come and join us on stage, and I'm sure Lord Woolley will be happy to answer your question. But before we finish, Lord Woolley, it is such an honor and such a privilege to have you here on this stage. You know, the program's been running for a few years, but it feels more complete today than it ever has to have you on this stage. And I feel like I'm back on that leadership program and back learning by listening to you. You have shared such wisdom today, and I am so grateful. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you want to join me in a round of applause.